Hello and welcome to another episode of Veritas. Today is week 2 of our Lenten Challenge. It is Wednesday, February the 24th, and I hope you had a great week last week, spending some time doing some divine reading, diving into the Gospels, and just examining sacred scripture and listening to how it speaks to you. This week, I'm going to call you out into the desert. Jesus, he was baptized. And we find in 3 different Gospels, Mark chapter 1, Luke chapter 4, Matthew chapter 4, that after Jesus was baptized, he went out into the desert. He was called for 40 days into the desert. I'm going to start with Mark chapter 1. It's our shortest text that we get about Jesus being tempted. Right before it in chapter 4, verses 9 through 11, it talks about Jesus was baptized, where he came from, and that a voice came from heaven that says, "You are my beloved Son, and I am well pleased." But we get 2 verses about the temptation of Jesus in chapter of Mark. It says in verse 12 and verse 13, "At once the Spirit drove him out into the desert, and he remained in the desert for 40 days, tempted by Satan. He was among the wild beasts, and the angels ministered to him." In this short recollection of Mark, we know that Jesus also journeyed for 40 days. He was in the desert, and he was tempted by Satan. There are going to be times this Lent where we are tempted by Satan. There are going to be times where angels in our community are ministering to us. As we move over to Luke chapter 4, we get a little bit more about the temptation of Jesus. Starting in chapter 4, verse 1, it says, "Filled with the Holy Spirit, Jesus returned from the Jordan and was led by the Spirit into the desert for 40 days to be tempted by the devil. He ate nothing during those days. And when they were over there, he was hungry. The devil said to him, 'If you are the Son of God, command the stone to become bread.' Jesus answered, 'It is written, one does not live on bread alone.' Then he took up and showed him all the kingdoms of the world in a single instant. The devil said to him, 'I shall give you all this power and their glory, for it has been handed over to me, and I may give it to whomever I wish. All this will be yours if you worship me.' Jesus said to him in reply, 'It is written, you shall worship the Lord your God, and him alone shall you serve.' Then he led him to Jerusalem, made him stand on the parapet of the temple, and said to him, 'If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down from here, for it is written, he will command his angels concerning you to guard you, and with their hands they will support you, lest you dash your foot against the stone.' Jesus said to him in reply, 'It also says, you shall not put the Lord your God to the test.' And when the devil had finished every temptation, he departed him for a time." We get to hear a little bit more about the trials that Jesus went to. We are reminded that one does not live on bread alone. We are reminded that we should worship the Lord our God, and only him shall we serve. God speaks to us in many different ways through the Gospels. I think it shows us the humanity of Jesus, that he was tempted, but he knew his Catholic teaching. He knew what he was being taught. Jesus knew as a young Jewish boy that he was He knew his scripture. He knew that he was the Messiah and that he had come for a purpose. As we flip over to the Gospel of Matthew, we really hear a little bit more about the temptation of Jesus. It says in the Gospel of Matthew chapter 4, starting at verse 1, "Then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the desert to be tempted by the devil. He fasted for 40 days and 40 nights, and afterwards he was hungry. The tempter approached him and said, 'If you are the Son of God, command that these stones become loaves of bread.' And he said in reply, 'It is written, one does not live on bread alone, but by every word that comes forth from the mouth of God.' Then the devil took him to the holy city and made him stand at the parapet of the temple and said to them, 'If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written, He will command his angels concerning you, and with their hands they will support you, lest you dash your foot against a stone.' Jesus answered him, 'Again it is written, you shall not put the Lord your God to the test.' Then the devil took him up to the very high mountain, showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their magnificence, and said to them, 'All these I shall give to you, if you will prostrate yourself and worship me.' And Jesus said to him, 'Get away, Satan. It is written, the Lord your God shall you worship, and him alone shall you serve.' Then the devil left him, and behold, angels came and ministered to him." Now, my favorite recollection of the temptation in the desert comes from Matthew, because we get a little bit more. We know that in Matthew we learn that one does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God. We know that Jesus finally has enough, and he says, "Get away from me, Satan. Your Lord, your God shall you worship, and him alone shall you serve." Jesus knew that he was going to be tempted like us. He was man, flesh, but he was also divine. He was also God. He also had the strength to push through. He had free will. He could have chosen not to be tempted. He could have made it all go away. But he knew that we had to be redeemed. He had the courage to say, "Get away from me, Satan." And one of the things that I really love in this scripture is the very end. It says that angels came and ministered to him. They ministered to the Son of Man, because sometimes whenever we've been tempted and we've been tried, we've been worn down by what the world tells us to do, what the world tells us is right, what the world tells us how to think, what to say, what to do, how to dress. Sometimes we're tired, and we need our community to minister to us, to help renew and refresh us, to restore us to a new life. Sometimes our community is the one that we need to minister to pray for those that can't pray for themselves. And so I find it fascinating that as Jesus was tempted, he went out into the desert. I think back to whenever the people were fleeing Egypt to find the Holy Land for Israel. They went out of Egypt across the Red Sea, and they went into the desert. And that's where they started really hearing the voice of God. And the people in the desert, they failed in the Old Testament. They failed. They made gold serpents. They worshiped it. They worshiped false gods. They forgot who they were. But when Jesus goes out into the desert, he has the courage to say, "Get away from me, Satan." And that's the same courage that we need to find deep within to renew ourselves this Lent. And so as we head into this week 2 of challenges, I want to call you out into the desert to get you away from the noises and what the world tells us is acceptable. This week, we are giving up noises. That means no radio, no podcasts, no music, as we are listening, to different electronic devices all the time. No Alexa, no noise. And it is very difficult. I am a music person myself. I love to praise and worship. I love to listen as I'm driving and getting my kids to school. But this week, we're going to turn off the noises so that we can really spend time listening to God. We find a lot of times in Scripture where God is telling us to be still and know that I am God. We see that in the Proverbs. We see that in the Psalms. Just be still. So this week for our give up, we're going to give up the noises. Give them up and focus on God. Now with all that time and with all that giving up of noise, you're going to need something to pick up. I know, my mind goes a million miles an hour all the time. And so if I don't have noise, if I don't have the music to distract me, I need something. So this week, I'm going to challenge you to pick up the Rosary. Pick it up every single day and pray it as you're driving, as you're working, as you're getting ready in the morning, whenever you usually have that noise that surrounds you. Pick up the Rosary. Mother Mary intercedes for us all the time. She walked the way of the cross. She helped everything deep within her heart. And she is there through our temptations, our trials, interceding for us, loving us as any loving mother does. Mary is there. And so we can connect with her through praying the Rosary. It doesn't have to be a quick bead and flip through it as fast as you can. As you meditate upon the mysteries of the Rosary and you present your petitions that you want her to intercede for you on her behalf, you'll find yourself spending a little bit time drawing deeper, drawing nearer to the cross through Mary. So pick up that Rosary. The next thing I want you to do, your almsgiving, your offer up. I mentioned that sometimes we're called to minister, to pray for those that can't pray for themselves. This week, your offer up is to pray for the protection of life from the moment of conception until we are in our final resting place, from all perspectives of life. There are many that cannot pray for themselves, especially the unborn. We are pro-life as a Catholic Church, and we need to pray for those protection of the innocent children, to pray for the protection of our elderly, to pray for those whose life is at risk. And so this week I would challenge you, offer up prayers for those that cannot pray for themselves. I am so excited to see what week 2 brings to you and how God speaks to you, how Mary is interceding for you, to see what blessings come your way. If you feel tempted to fall off the bandwagon, remember that in Matthew chapter 4, Jesus says, and at this, Jesus said, "Get away, Satan." This is an amazing journey towards Lent, where we find that Christ has risen indeed, and we are on our way to journey this Lent and see the remarkable things he does to renew us. Have a great week, and let's go.